Hello and welcome to our Spring Boot tutorial series. Today, we're diving into the Qualifier Annotation, a powerful feature for managing your application's dependencies more precisely. Whether you're new to Spring Boot or looking to brush up on your skills, this video will provide the insights you need. What is a qualifier? In Spring Boot, auto-wiring enables the framework to automatically inject dependencies. However, challenges arise when there are multiple beans of the same type. This is where the Qualifier Annotation becomes essential. It allows us to specify precisely which bean to inject, thus avoiding confusion when multiple options are available. In previous videos, we only provided a single implementation for greeting service, which was greeting service impl. Suppose we now introduce multiple implementations, such as English greeting service, Spanish greeting service, and Hindi greeting service. How will Spring Boot determine which service to inject? What will happen? Today, we will explore the challenges and solutions that arise when our application context includes multiple implementations. Let's dive in. In our previous video, we created the option dependency controller. Since we no longer require this class, let's go ahead and delete this file. This will help keep our project clean and focused on what's necessary. Let's now create a new class named Qualifier Controller inside the controller package. This step will help us effectively demonstrate the use of the Qualifier Annotation in our Spring Boot project. Follow along as I show you how to set this up. Annotate this class with the REST-controller annotation. Inside the Qualifier Controller class, create a variable of type greeting service. Next, define a constructor in the Qualifier Controller class for injecting the greeting service dependency. This will utilize Spring's dependency injection to automatically provide an instance of greeting service when Qualifier Controller is created. Next, define a getGreeting method inside the Qualifier Controller. This method should call the getGreeting method of the greeting service and return the same response. Next, let's configure the getGreeting method to handle HTTP GET requests by annotating it with @getMapping. Assign the path /qualifier/greeting to specify the URL endpoint that this method will serve. Now, let's move forward by defining various implementations of greeting service. We'll create 3 versions: English greeting service, Hindi greeting service, and Spanish greeting service. Each of these will provide a greeting in the respective language. Let's create a new class named English greeting service inside the service.impl package. Let's implement the greeting service in our English greeting service class. Start by having the class implement the greeting service interface. Then, override the getGreeting. Now, let's annotate our English greeting service class with the @component annotation and name the bean English greeting service. This will make the service recognizable and manageable within Spring's framework. Next, return hello from the getGreeting method. Next, let's create another class and name it Hindi greeting service. This will be another implementation of the greeting service tailored to provide greetings in Hindi. Let's implement the greeting service interface in it and override the getGreeting method. Now, let's annotate our Hindi greeting service class with the @component annotation and name the bean Hindi greeting service. And return Namaste from the getGreeting method. Next, let's create another class and name it Spanish greeting service. This class will serve as another implementation of the greeting service, providing greetings in Spanish. Next, implement the greeting service interface in it and override the getGreeting method. Next, annotate our Spanish greeting service class with the @component annotation and name the bean Spanish greeting service. And return hola from the getGreeting method. Now that we've created 4 different implementations of greeting service simple, English greeting service, Hindi greeting service, and Spanish greeting service, we're faced with a key question: how will Spring Boot determine which greeting service to inject into our qualifier controller? As our controller's constructor requires a greeting service instance, having multiple options might confuse Spring, potentially leading to an error. Let's run our application and observe how Spring handles this situation. This will demonstrate whether Spring can choose the appropriate bean on its own or if it needs us to provide more specific guidance. Oops, it looks like our Spring Boot application didn't start as expected. If we scroll up in the logs, we'll see an important message from Spring. It tells us that our qualifier controller needs a greeting service bean, but Spring found 4 candidates: English greeting service simple, Hindi greeting service, and Spanish greeting service. With multiple options available, Spring isn't sure which one to choose and needs more information from us to make a decision. This is a common situation in Spring applications when multiple beans of the same type are present. To resolve this, we need to guide Spring by providing explicit instructions on which bean to use. Here in the logs, Spring also provides what action we can take. It said either use the @primary annotation or the @qualifier annotation. Regarding the @primary annotation, we will discuss that in our next video. In today's video, we will use the @qualifier annotation to resolve this issue. Alright, let's kick things off by showing Spring how to use our Hindi greeting service bean. So, what do we do first? We'll dive into the Hindi greeting service class and grab the name of our bean from the @component annotation. Now, let's switch over to our qualifier controller class. Right inside the constructor, just before we declare our greeting service variable, we'll add a neat little annotation @qualifier. And what's the magic trick here? We paste in the name of our Hindi greeting service bean, which we just copied, its Hindi greeting service. Simple, right? Now that we've set up Spring to use our Hindi greeting service bean, let's run our application and see it in action. Our Spring Boot application has successfully started, and it's running on port 8080. Let's open a web browser to see our application in action. Type localhost 8080/qualifier/greeting in the address bar and press enter. Since we received Namaste as the response, which is returned from the Hindi greeting service class, it indicates that Spring has correctly injected the desired dependency and everything is functioning as expected. Now, let's direct Spring to inject the English greeting service class. Open the English greeting service class and copy the bean name specified in the @component annotation. Next, head over to the qualifier controller class. Inside the @qualifier annotation, update the bean name to English greeting service. Restart the application for the changes to take effect. Now that our application has restarted, let's head back to the web browser and reload the page in the web browser. As we can see, we received the response hello, which is returned from the English greeting service. This indicates that Spring has successfully injected the bean of English greeting service class this time. We've just seen that when multiple beans of the same type are present, Spring can't automatically determine which one to inject. We need to specifically tell Spring which bean to inject, and we do this using the @qualifier annotation. This annotation helps Spring to inject the specific bean we specify. So far, we've only injected a single bean. However, in some cases, such as when dynamically deciding which bean to use based on REST API inputs, we can use the factory pattern. All beans in Spring are present in the application context, and with the factory pattern, we can retrieve and use these beans based on our logic. This is a powerful and flexible approach that helps us dynamically configure our application. With this practical example, you've experienced firsthand how the @qualifier annotation can be a game-changer in managing dependencies within a Spring application. By explicitly specifying which bean to inject, @qualifier empowers developers to handle scenarios where multiple beans of the same type are present, ensuring precise control over dependency injection. Thank you for joining us in this tutorial. If you found this content helpful and want to stay updated with more tutorials and tips on Spring Boot and other technologies, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to create more valuable content for you. Happy coding!